Hello guys, once again it's Matt, and today we have another video. Let's thank our members first. Bell316, Victus, Crazy Bull for being the full crew members, and our first Foxhound Patreon, Interceptor 35. Thank you, man, for helping out. It makes a lot of difference. So thank you, it helps a lot. And make sure to be a member if you want to help the channel, and subscribe. Today I kinda wanted to talk to you a little bit. A lot of people, I feel like they complain a little bit, even with Gaijin, you know, that Japan specifically, but a lot of nations actually don't get as much stuff as other nations, you know. So Japan doesn't get as much stuff as, for example, the USSR or the US. And I already did a video kind of talking a little bit about it, but I wanted to make one properly for the US, for the Japanese tech tree, you know. So basically the idea here is to show to you guys that there's basically nothing else to be able to come right now. Once we get more advanced stuff, we will get more advanced stuff for Japan as well, but for now it's what it is, you know. So yeah, basically looking upwards, looking for the future, we only have basically two aircraft to come for Japan. Basically only the F-15J and the Mitsubishi F2. Of course, later we can receive the F-35, but that's just too far in the future, right? So these are probably the main aircraft that we shall see. Both of them are really advanced for now, even though we have the F-14 right now, and we have the Mirage 2000, an aircraft such as the F-15J, which is the equivalent for the F-15C for the Japanese. It is too advanced, man. It's way too advanced. Not by much, depending on the weapons, to be honest. But basically that's it. It is the F-15, you know. So it will be too OP for now if it doesn't have a counter. So we shall see like the MiG-29 and stuff like that to be counters to that aircraft anyway. Once we get, or in the same patch, if we get the F-15, we can have the MiG-29, as I said, F-15 for other nations, F-16s and stuff like that. Once we get that, yeah, it's fine to complain that the Japanese tech tree doesn't have the another aircraft beyond the EJ Kai. But until then, the EJ Kai is kind of the max that we can see. Because the F2 is too advanced. It is a very modified F-16C, basically. It has an ESA radar, which would be completely bluntly OP right now. And obviously the F-35 as well, it's too advanced. So it kind of becomes a thing of the only option that we have in the not so far future, it is the F-15, you know. And as I said, it is too advanced for now, but not that, I mean, if he used the AIM-9P4, maybe the AIM-7F, something like that, we can see it coming, you know. They're not that different from the early versions of the F-15A, you know, in the sense of the F-15A itself, you know. So if he uses these kind of not that advanced weaponry, he would be able to be in the game right now. But we would still need the MiG-29 and other counters to be able to counter it. The F-14 is a very good counter to it, but even the F-14 has its problems. The radar is a little bit older, you know, so you will have problems with especially notching and stuff like that, with blind speeds. Also, you know, the performance itself, it's going to be amazing. It's an aircraft that it is supposed to be like having 250, 280 meters per second of climb, so it would be a very powerful aircraft. I don't think we have any aircraft with such a climb rate. The climb rate, obviously, it's not the main thing about the performance of an aircraft, but it kind of gives you an idea of the energy-wise that the aircraft will have, right? For example, the MiG-23 MLD has 210 or something like that. And for example, the, I don't know, MiG-21s have 50 meters per second less than that, for example. So you kind of know that the MiG-23 will have more energy than the MiG-21, comparing a little bit on a superficial way the meters per second in the climb, you know. So the F-15 is basically too advanced for now, you know. But as I said, as long as we don't get a proper counter I mean, if we don't get a proper counter, the F-15 should not come. If we get it, one, then it should come. You know, that's basically it. And to be honest, the EJ Kai is a very, very good aircraft. It still doesn't have the most amount, the better weaponry that it could have, you know. Still doesn't have AIM-9Ls, still doesn't have AAM-3s, missiles like that. It is using the AIM-7F finally, but still can use the AIM-7M in the future. So we have room for improvement before we get into the F-15s, you know. So that's basically it. I know a lot of people don't know. I mean, once a guy actually came to me to ask why the F-14 wasn't in Japan as well. And I had to explain to him that the Japanese Air Force or Navy never used the F-14, so we would never be in the Japanese tech tree, you know? So basically new people in the game, they don't have this, you know, line of thinking of realistic thing that Gaijin normally do, because Gaijin isn't adding anything, even though they do kind of weird stuff sometimes, like the R2s, for example, but normally they try to be as realistic as possible, you know? So basically, as I said, doing this realistic kind of research, you will find that we only have these 3 aircraft to come until the end of basically War Thunder, or I don't know, until Japan actually decides to buy another aircraft. Another thing that we can have beyond the F-15D or the F-15J and the F-2 and the F-35 in the far future, but as soon as possible the F-15J, we can have the Korean Subtree. This is an idea that I actually want to make a proper video about it, and it's not a original idea from myself. I think I saw on the forum, but I just think it's a very, very good one. I know a lot of Koreans probably would not like it, especially with Japanese, you know, due to certain stuff that happened in World War II. But still, I think it would be fair to say that it would make sense to have either or. So either a Korean together line, so North, you know, People's Korea and the Republic of Korea, so North and South Korea, together in one line, you know, or like China is, kinda, not gonna get too much into that, but kinda how China works right now. And then, or we can have basically sub-trees as we have in Finland for another nation. So we can have South Korea having the being in Japan, you know, so Japan would have a new little tree for tanks and aircraft. And remember, this would make even the Japanese tech tree itself a little bit better, you know, because you would able to actually just have more stuff, you know, in top tier and stuff like that. So the ground forces would be more supplied with better stuff and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's a very, very alright line of thinking, you know, to do that. And yeah, I just think that it would make sense. And obviously then North Korea or People's Republic of Korea should be on the Chinese tech tree. So it would be together with that. It has some modifications, a lot of modifications of Soviet/Chinese vehicles. So it would make sense to be a sub-tree on the Chinese tech tree as well. So they can do either or. I think either or of them will be good, you know, but one of them will help Japan and the other one will not. So I don't know, maybe even another nation, maybe a lot of people talk about Singapore or any kind of Asian nation that I mean, it would make more sense to add it for one of the other Asian nations as well, so China or Japan, depending on the nation that it is. For example, Vietnam tech tree on the China as well, or something like that, you know. So this sub-tree kind of thing can be very helpful for these minor nations. Remember, they will always have less stuff than the Soviets, than the US, and even the Germans, you know. So you kind of cannot avoid that, to be honest. You kind of are just forced to be playing with less stuff, just because the nation itself used less stuff, you know. As I said, we are not far from the F-15, to be honest. But even with the F-15, it's going to pass like 1 year, maybe 2 years, and we are probably not gonna get into the F2 yet. Even if the F15, what I mean is, even if you get the F15 next patch for some reason in December, we will probably have to wait until like 2025 to get the Mitsubishi F2 of how advanced that aircraft is. So, and how basically everything takes time in War Thunder to be added, you know? So kind of it's not really fair to say that the F15, I mean, the F15 will come and everybody will in 1 year or something will start complaining that Japan doesn't get anything else and Japan is lacking aircraft and stuff like that, and it starts all over again, you know? So it's something that if you are a Japanese main player, you have to get this thing like used to it, because Japanese tech tree will be always smaller than the other ones. Unless we get subtrees on it, it will be always smaller. They're even putting prototypes on the tech tree for the tanks for you to actually have two of the same tanks to spawn in. So yeah, that's how little stuff they have in priority. You know, it's just smaller countries will produce less stuff, less variety of stuff because of money issues. Not money issues, but you have a kind of a smaller limit for expanding in military, you know? And then with that, you kind of have to have an aircraft that does everything, a tank that does everything, and it's basically that, you know? An aircraft, and nations like the US, USSR, could have an aircraft for X, Y, and Z, you know? They can do anything, particularly on that subject. So yeah, but basically this is it, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I see you guys on the next one. So subscribe and bye.